Housing your crocodilian. Housing your crocodilian is an important factor to your new acquisition remaining healthy. In this video we have based the housing footage on medium-sized crocodilians. It is essential that a number of points are remembered in the building of your croc pen. One, firstly, your croc will grow, so before purchasing you need to make sure you have enough room. Two, secondly, due to the pond there will be high levels of humidity, so if it is an indoors pen then make sure construction is of materials which can handle this. 3. It is also important that you can clean easily, which is why some keepers use tiling on the walls and floors so hygiene can be kept to a maximum. Okay, so let's have a look at your croc enclosure. If you are lucky enough to be able to keep your crocodiles outside, then as we see here, you can give your crocs or gators copious room. If it is inside, then we have gone into some of the factors to bear in mind. It is very important that your cage contains a land and water area. One of the first mistakes a keeper can make is not to heat the water. The land area and the water area must be heated. As with other reptiles, digestion of crocodilians is completely dependent on temperature. And crocodilians spend considerable time in the water, which is why it is important that the temperature is correct. It is vital though that they have a basking area to dry off. Obviously, specific temperatures differ depending on which species you are going to keep. Make sure you do adequate research on this. As a general rule, you should be looking at setting up a thermogradient of 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The nighttime drop should be done in a different way to many reptiles. Keep the water temperature the same, but reduce the land temperature. How large your enclosure needs to be is obviously dependent on the size of the crocodilian you have purchased, but base the size roughly on 4 times the length of the croc or caiman, and it is the same for the water enclosure. This is very much a minimum, and if you can give more room then please do so. The water area should be kept clean. It is important that a filtration system should be used on the water system. Many garden centres sell this type of equipment as it is often used in koi carp ponds. Remember that captive crocodilians are susceptible to bacterial infections due to unclean cages. Here we see the sort of cage a keeper might use for an indoor enclosure. Note the water area and basking area. The pond has a filter system which is plumbed to the outside. It is a good idea to make sure the caiman or croc has somewhere they can go to feel secure. Decorations can be placed in the cage, but remember, crocodilians are very strong and so the decoration should reflect this, otherwise it will get destroyed. A good substrate is river sand. This is also available from garden centres. A crocodilian's feet are very soft, so it is not a good idea to use concrete in the enclosure as this can cause problems. Many keepers have different opinions on whether crocodilians need full spectrum lighting, but there is some evidence to support the hypothesis that it is beneficial, especially when compared to crocs who are kept without it. UVB is obviously important in the synthesis of vitamin D3, although much of it is absorbed from a varied diet. UVA importance is largely unknown, but the behaviour and general health of crocodilians is improved by using full spectrum lighting. It is also thought that this wavelength is responsible for skin hygiene. We would always recommend the use of this type of lighting. The new power suns which have been developed also make good basking spots, as well as being full spectrum lights. When designing your enclosure, you need to think about cleaning and not causing the croc too much stress. That's why a filtration system is good, as it is constantly filtering the water. Many keepers have had their captors from babies, and so have trained them to be used to the cleaning regime. This is a much better system, as a reptile is far less stressed. There is no wrong or right way of cleaning, as long as the cage is clean and the animal's needs are paramount. Once your cage has been set up, invite another croc keeper to come and look at your system. Often fresh eyes can spot any problems. Once you have checked the temperatures remain constant, you are then able to put your crocodilian into the enclosure. It is important you allow the new acquisition to settle in, as you do not want him hurting himself and being stressed out. After your croc has settled in, start to establish a routine with it. Remember that they have a higher function brain than other reptiles and will quickly adapt to it. In maintenance of the cage there are two philosophies. One is to remove the croc from its pen and the other is to clean around it. We would generally recommend the second one, as it is far less stressful for the croc. Most crocs or gators can be trained to go into their secure area for cleaning. This allows you to clean the cage with ease. But it is important that you remember some species can be territorial and might object to somebody coming in. With large crocs we would always recommend the two-man rule. One cleans whilst the other watches his back. Most of the mess is from food. This can be avoided by offering smaller prey items which the croc can easily swallow. The water should be kept clean, and this is generally done using a filter system you have plumbed into your pool. Every 2 to 3 weeks you will need to drain the pond and give it a good scrub. The general condition of your pond will directly affect the general health of your crocodilian. Handling your crocodile is the most dangerous part, and although you can get some calm crocodilians, it is generally the exception rather than the rule. If handled wrongly, the crocodile can be injured, and so can the keeper. Normally when crocodilians are restrained in any way, you will see a completely different side to them. Many species will thrash about and death roll to escape. Whatever handling technique you choose to use, it is important it is done as fast and safely as possible, to reduce stress levels in the croc. There are two basic ways of catching your croc or caiman. The first one is to use a noose or top jaw rope to secure the animal. Then you will be able to restrain him and shut the jaws. Here you are seeing the use of the top jaw rope. If the croc is in the pond, then you will need to remove the croc first using the rope before restraining him. If the croc or gator is of reasonable size, you will also need another 2 people for safety. Here you can see the top jaw rope in use, and the croc has been moved to a different part of the enclosure where the top jaw rope is then secured. Make sure it is secured to something immovable, as they are very strong animals and capable of strength which will surprise most people. It is important at this point that the croc or gator's body language is carefully watched. Before a croc explodes into action, the legs change position and the body tenses. By keen observation, it can give the keeper advance warning of what is about to happen. The keeper in one movement needs to go from a standing position at the rear of the croc with the end of his tail between his legs to kneeling astride the croc where he or she places his hands safely around the neck. It is important for keepers to allow their legs to take their own weight and not the croc's back. Make sure you are lifting yourself slightly so this does not happen. The backup keeper then helps by turning the legs so that the croc is immobilized. It often helps by placing a blindfold over the head of the captured crocodile, as this helps reduce stress. Now the time has come to deal with the end that bites. It often helps by placing a blindfold over the head of the captured crocodile as this helps reduce stress. This can then be removed once the croc is secure. It is worth noting that when blindfold is being placed on the croc will often bite the blindfold if it can, and this will have to be untangled before it can be removed. Crocodilian blood chemistry is rather complicated, and we will look at a chemical reaction which stress often induces as a direct effect of handling. It is important a basic understanding of this is had to ensure healthy crocs. Handling should always be kept to an absolute minimum, and only done for a reason. Crocodilians are not animals which will sit on your lap and be petted. Neither do they want to live on your boat. They are happiest when left alone, but of course there are times such as inspections and complete clean-outs when this is necessary. When stressed, one of the reactions which can take place is a shift in the pH level of the blood. It often drops a great deal, and in other forms of life this would cause injury or death. This process is known as acidosis, and anyone who has seen The Crocodile Hunter will have certainly heard Steve mention it on numerous occasions. Crocodiles are built for short bursts of energy and not long ones. When a croc is stressed and thrashing about, then lactic acid builds up. Under normal conditions the body deals with this and everything is okay. But when restrained and the croc is being held, it is unable to do this. This then leads to the pH level in the blood dropping to dangerous levels. It is a credit to these creatures that they can take this level of drop at all. But the important factor is the length of time this occurs over, which is why handling must be done as quickly and safe as possible. When the mouth has been secured using simple tape, which can easily be removed afterwards, a close inspection of the animal by the staff or the vet can then take place. The other way of handling crocs is as you see it here. Carlos is taking the croc by the tail, and using the T-piece, which is placed in the neckline, you are able to block the croc from turning and biting. The croc is then manoeuvred round to a position so you can place a blindfold over the eyes.